Patrushev, who's the head of the Security Council, very powerful man, Putin's national security advisor, the man who's also in overall charge of the Russian intelligence community. He had a very, very big session with Lavrov, and he's also met Putin himself. And we know that part of the purpose of his visit to Moscow is to prepare the ground for Xi Jinping's visit to Moscow, which is now expected at some point next month. So Xi Jinping is heading to Moscow. Now, over the course of all of these meetings, there was a discussion between Lavrov and Wang Yi. And we've only got one readout so far. It's very sketchy, and it comes from the Russian Foreign Ministry. But it said that the Chinese and the Russians agree about what was the root cause of the Ukrainian conflict. So that means, if we follow it through, that the Chinese also agree with the Russians about what caused the Ukrainian conflict, because the Russians have set out enormous amounts of detail. Now, given that that is so, and given that, as you absolutely rightly say, the Chinese understand that this is a neocon project, and that the neocons, if they manage to succeed in Ukraine, would move on to come after China once they've broken up, fragmented, pulped Russia, imposed their own kind of system on Russia. The Chinese are not going to let that happen. And I think this is the thing people now need to understand. If the US goes on escalating in Ukraine, the Chinese, for the moment, they don't want to be visibly sending arms to Ukraine. But if they go on escalating to the point where it really looks as if the Russians might get into trouble, the Chinese will be safe. And they will not allow Russia to be defeated in Ukraine, because it has now become a matter of vital strategic interest to the Chinese that the Russians don't lose. Now that's an important point to understand, but it's come out clearly both from Wang Yi's visit and from what is contained in all of this. So that's the first thing to say. But the second thing, and it's the second point that we make, is actually the more important one. Because why have the Chinese come out with all these things now? They've come out with all of these things now for exactly the reason that you say. They feel they can, because the drift of world opinion is in their favor. It's moving towards these positions, which Putin very courageously outlined years ago, but they're obviously now gaining increasing traction around the world. We're seeing this current UN General Assembly session, where it seems the West is having great trouble putting together a resolution, a General Assembly resolution, critical of Russia over Ukraine. What we're hearing is that it's been basically stripped of all substance. But even that is apparently having problems getting traction there. So the Chinese see that. They see that global opinion is turning against the US, that the Saudis are drifting away from the US, that the Brazilians refuse to get involved in the war in Ukraine, that Mexico is speaking out, that the African leaders are siding with the Russians, that everybody is exasperated with the neocons, with the Americans, and with the EU, which is, of course, the neocons willing. And the Chinese are saying, this is our moment. We are far and away the most powerful country that is rivaling the US. This is our moment. This is the moment when we can come out, say to the world, straightforwardly, this is what America, the neocons in America, have done. And we are your champion. We will stand with you all around the world as you resist it. And we've come up with our alternative foreign policy, our alternative vision of the world, respecting the rights of countries to choose their own destinies, is opposed to interference in internal affairs, and all of those things. So you see that the Chinese sense that this is their moment, and they're seizing it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the real war. I mean, what's happening in Ukraine is, to me, is a battle in this larger war, which is the movement from neoliberal, globalist world order to something else, or at least having the option to have something else. Doesn't mean the one goes away, but at least now you're going to have a different system that other countries, specifically countries in the global south, maybe even NATO members like Turkey, maybe even EU members like Hungary, they can look at this alternative system and they can say this is interesting. Maybe I'll look further into the way they're doing things and look into their organizations and the way they provide financing, or the way they can help out on an economic level or on a trade level or even on a military level. So I mean, it does provide a new alternate system for a lot of the countries in the world that up until today were stuck with just one player, and that was this neoliberal. So that brings me to what I consider to be one of the biggest lies of the conflict in Ukraine, which is that Russia is isolated. And I think that China now has kind of blown apart that lie. And I think this explains a lot of the panicked moves that we've seen from red line warnings to China. I think it explains the Biden trip to Kiev and the weird speech that he gave in Poland. Because I'm seeing the collective West, they're very afraid of people waking up, especially in Europe or the United States, and just kind of saying, you know, is Russia really that isolated? Because it seems like China is with them, and not only is China with them, it seems like this whole new system is being built. Maybe we're the ones that are isolated. Maybe it's our leaders that